into some of these blogs I pulled up. The very first one is ironically called Training versus Fulfillment. And I have not read this. I have not seen this before. I just pulled this up. And ironically, it's another one by my buddy Tyler Muto. I saw it on the Canine Connection website. So we're going to read this, and we're going to see if this segues into what we were just talking about or not.
Perfect.
You ready?
Yep.
Training versus fulfillment. A new client brings her dog into my center and begins describing her dog's problem behavior. He is constantly getting into things, she says. He sits at the window, waiting for any movement outside, and then he'll bark like crazy. When he goes into that mode, he doesn't even hear me calling his name. I nod in acknowledgement of her frustration. If he wants my attention, he'll just start barking at me, and when I tell him no, he just barks more. I see, I reply. How much exercise does he get regularly? Well, he spends time out in our yard every day. What about walks, I ask? Do you ever engage with him in exercise so you could challenge him mentally and physically? Well, we probably don't walk as much as we should, which means no. Believe it or not, this is a very common scenario at our center. The dog in question was a young, healthy hound mix with a mid-level of energy. The woman was looking for a training method to eliminate these behaviors. Just do this, and he'll never act that way again. I had to inform her that what she was dealing with was not a training issue, it was a fulfillment issue. Ask any high energy level human how they would feel if they were forced to sit still for a couple of days with no physical activity and without being able to leave the house. Most would tell you that they would become very agitated. In fact, they would probably become physically uncomfortable as their energy became more and more pent up and their body began looking for ways to release it. It is not a good feeling and would not be a happy individual. That's not it. Now imagine how your high energy dog feels when he's been stuck in the house all week. I'll bet he's literally crawling in his own skin, and it's no wonder he's getting into trouble as he desperately looks for ways to release his energy. I have 3 dogs, but the one who is most often in public eye is Lobo, my 2.5-year-old Belgian Malinois. He is not a German Shepherd, although he looks similar. Most Malinois have significantly higher levels of energy than the average German Shepherd. Lobo is a very high-energy dog. People meet him and are always impressed. He has a great energy. He is stable and balanced. He holds down positions while I wrangle the aggressive dogs and doesn't bat an eye. However, I'm always amazed at one thing. Many people see his behavior and say, well, that's just because he is a shepherd. No. Anyone who knows me and Lobo also knows the amount of work that I do with him every day. Sometimes I'm tired, but I know that I am his steward and his best friend. He does so much for me, and the least I could do is keep him fulfilled. And then he goes into a daily routine. Let's talk about this daily routine here.
Okay.
It's Wednesday, April 18th, 7 a.m. While I make coffee and eat breakfast, Lobo is on the treadmill. He does a steady 5 miles per hour with no leash. He completes about 2 miles in just under half an hour. Then he gets a chance to go outside and slow his breathing before he eats his breakfast. Then we get ready to head down to the training center. 8:30, we stop at the park that's right around the corner from the training center. The treadmill is a great start, but Lobo doesn't get really run full bore on the treadmill. Lobo needs a chance to at least once a day really let loose. The chuck-it ball tosser provides a perfect solution. Lobo has a very intense ball drive. This is also why off-leash training is so valuable. Here we are, just outside of downtown Buffalo and right next to I-90. But I can trust my dogs 100% off-leash. After about 20 minutes of intense running, mingled with obedience exercises, we pack up and head to the center to check in on my staff and get organized for the day. 10 a.m. Lobo and I meet one of my clients at the waterfront to help her learn how to walk her troublesome Old English Bulldog past other dogs. Here, Lobo did a lot of walking and a lot of holding down position while I gave instruction. 11 a.m. Lobo and I are back at the center working with the pack. Lobo is great at helping dogs become social. He'll spend a good hour out here in the yard interacting with dogs, and that's just what happens before noon. As the day wears on, Lobo helps me with various other appointments and does a lot of pack work. Later in the evening, We do some play and training with just the two of us. 9 p.m. Lobo is able to settle down and chew a bone at home. He's not exhausted, but he's content. Believe it or not, without that much exercise, he would still be very antsy, pacing around the house, and overall being kind of annoying. It's not his fault. Without exercise, it is obvious that he is physically and mentally uncomfortable. In short, Lobo is not balanced and well-behaved because he is a shepherd. He is balanced and well-behaved because he is fulfilled. His life is enriched through exercise, discipline, structure, and fun. He has a job, and his life has purpose. This is what it takes to own a high-energy dog. For some, it is a dream come true. For others, a nightmare. Before you bring a dog home, consider that dog's needs. Pay close attention to their energy level. What will it take to keep that dog balanced? Many of the behavior problems that I see are simply a result of the dog being higher energy than the owner. If your dog is displaying problem behaviors around the house, ask yourself, have I fulfilled my dog's needs today?
Dang. That's a heck of a routine too, by the way. That's a lot. You know, the biggest point though, true, is knowing your breed's needs.
Yeah.
You know, like he said, like he has a high energy dog that needs a lot of stimulus. And he's getting a lot of stimulus with that. How do you think that correlates to people that obviously don't have that kind of schedule?
It's a great question. Yeah, so like I said, I've never read that blog post until right now.
Yeah.
Right? And I appreciate that he's driving home the point of, yo, if you do more shit with your dog, your dog will be calmer and more well-behaved.
Yeah.
Right? I completely agree with a lot of people that a lot of people don't provide enough of an outlet for their dog 100%. For a lot of reasons, right? One, it could be a quote-unquote time issue or a priority issue. Two, the dog's behavior doesn't allow them to go out and provide all of that extra stimulus.
Yeah.
Three, they either don't have access to or don't trust the dog off leash enough in order to give them the ability to just run. Because honestly, one of the biggest things I would say that I see with dogs that they are lacking is the true ability to, like I was talking about in this German Shepherd's case, to truly just tear ass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like go balls to the walls, running at your absolute full speed, full cadence. Yeah. I think so many dogs do not have the ability to do that because you need a lot of space. If you've got a big dog, even if you have an acre, like we have an acre, right, in our yard, and I don't think that Vinny, if he really needed to, could truly like tear ass in the way that like I know he can. He can run pretty good, you know, and he can get a decent amount of exercise back there, but it's not the same as like when we go to the golf course behind our house and I either throw a chuck it ball like Tyler was saying, or I just release the dogs and just let them fucking go, right? It's very different, you know? And I think that's very hard for a lot of owners to replicate, you know?
For sure.
So that's a big one. I think a lot of dogs, if they had the ability to just really fucking run, you know, I think a lot of their issues probably would start to dissipate, you know? So you know, like I said, I appreciate what he's saying, which is try to do more with your dog. I think the missing link, though, is training will solve a lot of those problems. You know, the only thing I didn't like with it is how he talked about, you know, training isn't going to solve your problems. Yes, demand barking, getting into things, a lot of those types of behaviors, training will solve those problems, right? Yeah. But they won't solve the problems from the standpoint of fulfilling the dog's needs, which is why it's a multi-tiered approach, like I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
We do the intensive training. We hold the dog to the higher standard so that we could ensure we keep them at a manageable level of like annoying regardless of how much exercise we're providing for them.
Yeah.
And then we take the extra edge off then at that point with the exercise we're providing for them. Because the other thing is, like that routine, like you were saying, like that's a hell of a routine. And knowing Tyler, like I'm sure when he was like in full bore, like hardcore going to the facility every day, stuff like, you know, doing a lot of lessons himself, stuff like that. I'm sure he was providing that for him, you know? No different than like when I first started getting into this, like Vera was like my helper dog and she was the one that like, she got that much exercise every day, right? Or Vinny when I first got him or things like that. But that is a completely, in my opinion, unsustainable
Oh, yeah.
routine for your average owner.
Oh, for
Right.
sure.
And I think that if we find ourselves in this trap of we have to fulfill our dog's needs in order to make sure that they don't tear up things in the house and like do all these unwanted behaviors, that's a dangerous boat to get into, because yes, we want to fulfill their needs as best as we can, obviously, but like sometimes like life does get in the way. You know what I mean? And we have to be empathetic to your average owner with that, of like, yo, like sometimes you're going to have a fucking busy week. Like right now, right? Christmas to New Year's. Like some people, like their schedule is fucking crazy for the holidays. And yes, the dog is going to get a little bit more fulfillment from the standpoint of being involved in more activities and stuff like that. And we can't just totally push them to the side, but like we also might not be able to provide all of the exercise in the evenings like we normally would because we're hosting or having family stay in town or any of those types of things. And I think that's an important caveat to have, where we're always trying to meet our clients like halfway in the middle, right? Here's what we need to provide to the dog, right? Or I should say, here's what we should be providing for our dog, and here's your needs, right? Let's meet in the middle with it. Or like maybe, you know, sometimes we don't provide as much as we should, but we provide what we can, but we also calibrate our expectations of the dog in that moment to kind of meet the needs that we have for them.
Yeah.
Right?